call the April 15th, 2021 regular meeting of the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency to order. We're meeting this morning by live teleconference pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N29-20 to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Members of the public have been asked to participate in this meeting by live stream and have been asked to submit comments in writing to the clerk by 8 a.m. this morning. So as we'll start, will the meeting clerk please call the roll?
Okay. Director Ledesma?
Here.
Vice Chair Alcala?
Here.
Chair Ramos?
Here.
Thank you. All are present.
Thank you. All right. Well, our first agenda item today is presentation of public matters not on the agenda from the public. Have there been any presentations or comments submitted? Seeing none, we'll move forward with item 1B, report out on closed session. Council Nevis.
Good morning. The board met in closed session this morning on the two items listed on the agenda and took no reportable action.
Thank you. Item 1C, our monthly and year-to-date review of revenue and expenses.
Good morning, board members and staff. I'll be reporting out on the revenue and expenditures for the month of February 2021. In our O&M fund 870, the beginning balance was $3.38 million. There was no revenue and expenditures were $377,000. Making the ending position for Fund 870 to be $3.01 million. In our CIP Fund 871, the beginning balance was approximately negative $1.66 million. There was also no revenue and expenditures totaled $405,000. The ending position for 871 was negative $2.06 million. Looking at the year-to-date position, the combined cash among all three funds was $2.99 million. So previously in the past, we did talk about working with state to get a partial retention refund release for our Southport project, and I'm happy to report that the agency received $6.89 million, and so it finally hit our books, and Fund 871 is no longer in the red. So staff is still working with state for quarter 38, which is about $1.41 million true up. And so as of today, the agency's combined cash position is approximately $9.54 million. And with that, I conclude my report. Please let me know if you have any questions for me.
Any questions from board members?
No, just a comment for Norma. I was just going to say thank you so much. I was just going to say thanks so much for the great work.
Thank you, all staff and state.
And ditto here too. Consent agenda. We have two items: consideration of adoption of the revised program for public information in our minutes from the March 18, 2021 meeting. Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? If not, I would accept a motion for approval.
Hey, Chair Ramos, there is,
yes.
It's noted on the minutes from the March meeting. The first sentence references the meeting as a special meeting of the Board of Directors when it was a regular meeting of the Board of Directors.
Okay.
I offer up that amendment to the meetings, the minutes.
And I would accept that correction. You had mentioned it to me. I thought you were talking about today, so thanks for clarifying that. So then I would make the motion to accept the consent items with the correction to the March 18th minutes.
A second. This is Norma.
So it's been first and seconded. First by myself, Chair Ramos, and second by Vice Chair Alcala. Would the clerk take the roll?
Okay. Treasurer Ledesma,
Aye.
Vice Chair Alcala,
Aye.
Chair Ramos.
Aye.
Consent agenda passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. On to WSAFCA project updates.
So good morning, Chair Ramos. This morning, the project updates will be done by Paul Dirksen. I do have a couple of items to discuss with the board following Paul's updates. Take it away, Paul.
Good morning, Chair Ramos and Directors Alcala and Ledesma. I have a few updates for your to draw your attention to. In terms of the Southport Restoration Project, River Partners is actively working the project again, trying to get rid of a lot of invasive species. We've had a lot of growth out there. I don't know if you've walked the levee recently, but it really is starting to look like a forest, a groomed forest. And next week they'll be putting in irrigation for the season. Some of the plants do need that, and we're not expecting river levels to rise or any great precipitation to give it water otherwise. So it's an important important milestone for the year. In terms of the federal project, there's the design team, the broader design team is still reviewing 100% plans and specs. We're also working on looking through all of the comments that were delivered at different milestones to make sure that they're all back checked. And then that can be closed out with the Army Corps. And then in the most recent developments, the Sacramento district has asked us to lead the charge in updating the O&M manual for the Yolo bypass project. So small contract change for some other creditable work coming forward. In terms of the 2022 appropriations process, this past week, last week, we put together budget requests and some letters of support from our project partners to Congresswoman Matsui's office, as well as to Senator Feinstein and Padilla. So we received letters of support from Yolo County, the Central Valley Flood Protection Board, and then RD 900 and WSAFCA to support the cities. And our request continues to be $35 million for construction new start. And that has been coordinated with our partners over at the Sacramento district. And that's what I have for updates for you today.
Sheriff, I could.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning. Yes, I took a walk on the levee. When was that? Sunday or Saturday? Sunday. And you're right. It looks great out there and really coming in. So I just want to acknowledge all the hard work everyone's doing. And yeah, it looks great out there.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Paul? If not, Greg, you said you had some additional information to discuss.
Yeah, Chair Ramos. Just a couple of things. One is we plan to bring a couple items to the board. One, a budget workshop in May, followed by a proposed budget to adopt in June. So those will be coming in the coming months. And then also, we have reported out in previous progress reports and discussion that the city went out for a proposal for assessment management services for their CFDs. They also included in that RFP WSAFCA and its assessment management. We have been reporting out that we may bring an item to the board to consider contracting assessment management services to a third party. So the city awarded a contract to Wildan, I think it was last week, to do assessment management for the CFDs. A proposal was given from Wildan to the agency in an amount of $12,500 to perform similar services for our assessment, the flood assessment management. And it seems to be a reasonable proposal in terms of cost when you apportion that amongst all the properties, as well as hopefully an increased return on our direct billing for the assessment, which hopefully can offset some of those costs. Staff is prepared to recommend that we move forward with Wildan for the agency's assessment district management. And I think that can be done in two ways. One, which is the most expeditious, would be you could approve, or the general manager myself could execute the contract on behalf of the agency under the general manager's authority that the board has granted, which the limit is $50,000, and this falls well within that limit. I would execute that contract by coordinating with agency treasurer as well as agency counsel. Or the other option would be to prepare an item for the board to bring it back in May for the board to consider and authorize. I would recommend option one, in that it allows us to move forward a little bit more quickly. It's a pretty large process, and getting this project off and running as soon as possible is advantageous. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board for any questions and or direction.
I'll start with a question. This is for management of our assessment roles, I assume, some of the work that Mark and others have been doing all along to keep things updated and going. And what you were saying there, they will also handle the direct bill portion of it, and it won't be coming through the city anymore?
Correct. They'll do it on behalf of the agency, and then they would report and submit to the city, or to the agency.
Okay. I think that's one benefit. I've seen some of the direct invoicing in the past, and it was confusing because many times it was labeled City of Sacramento, City of West Sacramento versus WSAFCA, and it was confusing for folks. So hopefully in this process, it's better defined.
This is Roberta. If I may, I'd love to just add a comment to that. The assessment was previously administered by city and WSAFCA staff. So our IT staff was involved quite heavily, along with finance staff and WSAFCA flood support staff. And so, you know, this is basically contracting that out. There's a couple of reasons. One, it's a big process. It's very involved. It takes several weeks and a lot of effort. And so and we're a little short staffed at the moment. So getting a contractor to do this for us, especially one that's already familiar with a lot of the city's assessment districts and working with us, would be helpful. They also will follow up on the direct bills better than we typically do. And hopefully we'll get some of those payments either earlier or payments that we haven't received in the past. Also, the cost at $12,500 is probably less than what WSAFCA was covering for city staff doing this. And as you're actually going to see reduced costs overall. We updated the cost allocation plan, and that resulted in reduced allocations to the Flood Support Services Fund, which of course is funded by WSAFCA. So what would happen if we didn't do this contract is city staff would be charging time directly to WSAFCA for the administration of this. And so you're saving money overall, and probably even saving money on this function by contracting it out.
Thank you, Roberta.
Any questions from the other directors? And or what process would we have to give you authority here, Greg? Do we need a vote for that, or do we?
No, I think you've already granted authority to the general manager to execute contracts on behalf of the agency, as long as it's within the dollar limit. So okay. If there's no objection, I'll just move forward and do that.
I have no objection. I appreciate kind of being explaining a little bit more for those who haven't seen maybe some of the issues that's caused, but I appreciate the background. Thank you.
I agree also. And thank you, Roberta, because you answered two of the questions I was going to ask.
And I agree. I think that it is a lot of work to keep those roles fresh and accurate, and you know, working along with the other CFDs, there should be an economy of scale there. So I think it's a good decision. So move forward, Greg.
Will do. Thank you.
Anything else?
Oh, no, I didn't have anything else. If there's any, of course, if there's any other questions in general that the board has, we can do our best to answer them.
Okay. None from me. If there's any other comments from board members? Not hearing any. I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. Chris, may I ask you to please call me on my cell?
Sure. What number?
Not